Welcome to Montreal Rocks. And today we're very excited, as always, to have Allegra Jordyn in the studio. Now, Allegra has been quite active. She's been active for quite a long time. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But right now, she's working so hard on this new EP that should be released very soon called Take It From Me, I Know. And I hope she does know because we really want to know when is this going to come out. But before we get into that, welcome.
Thank you. Hi. Thanks for having me.
It's always
Very
great to have
excited.
musicians. Toronto is a sister city to us, and some people say there's a big competition between Montreal and Toronto. I don't care. I love Toronto. You guys have great musicians, and you're one of them as well.
Thank you. I love Montreal. So
So, Allegra, first of all, how do you live up to the meaning of your name?
you don't. No, I'm kidding. Um,
Joyful, right?
yeah. Yeah, it is. My name is interesting. I've always wanted to go by another name for music purposes. I feel like it's just really cool to have like a character or some sort of persona, like Lord, Lady Gaga. Those are not their real names, and they can create this whole character around the name that they gave themselves. And for me, you can't be given the name Allegra and not go by it. And so I ended up going by my real name, and I like it because it's unique. It's very Googleable.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like it does represent me. I feel like it does. And I've still been able to kind of create a like persona or an image that I want to portray for artists even without having like a name that's not my own name.
Names are very important. I got to say, it's so fascinating how we take so much meaning out of our name. Sometimes it's our first name or pronoun, like what we call each other, but also sometimes it's our last names. Maybe it's because we want to, set up a legacy for our family name, or maybe right or wrong in the past. I've dealt with this with entrepreneurs. It's fascinating, but I want to kind of let's talk more about you. I want to go back to your childhood. I always like to start there because I like to know
Yeah.
where you came from and how you built yourself up to be the Allegra Jordyn we know today. So I want to picture yourself a small child. I know you listen to probably some classic rock in the house, maybe your parents' records or vinyl tapes, 8 track. I don't know. Was there a time where music kind of changed from something that you heard, maybe that was your parents' music, to something you identified with that more hit you in the heart and just said, no, this is my music. This is different. This is hitting me differently. Was there a band or a song that did that for you?
I would say that one of the songs that did that for me was Imagine by John Lennon. That's just one of my favorite songs ever. It's a song, if you ask me what song I wish I wrote, if you ask me what song inspires me the most, like no matter what you ask, that's my go-to song. I have Imagine tattooed on my arm because I love it so much, and it just has always inspired me. And it's the kind of song where it impacts so many people and makes everybody just feel a certain type of way, and it's really had such a massive impact on the world, and I just want my music to do that. So it's just one of those things that I listen to it and I'm like, I wish that my music can impact this many people and make this big of a difference in the world.
Of course, that message rings true more than ever when we're in a country or in a world that's divided politically or so many things. There's just division, division, division anyway. And we can imagine a world where that isn't the case. And it was a beautiful song that made us think about what if, but also what can we do to get us there?
Yeah. I feel like it really is a song just about the good in the world and finding good in the world and making good in the world. And I just feel like I resonate with that a lot.
So we come up to you as a 10-year-old, and now you're doing vocal coaching. What dreams did 10-year-old you have at the time?
10-year-old me didn't really write her own music. She wanted to. And she was struggling. I feel like my dream at that point was to be able to have my own career as an artist. And at that point, I was really only recording and performing covers. And I wanted to go through some experiences, be able to write some really amazing songs and put them out and have so many people connect with them because there were songs that was covering that was doing that for me, and they were like hitting me in a certain way or inspiring me to and just making me fall in love with them. And I was like, I need songs that are my own that can do that for other people. And so at that point, I just really, really wanted to have my own music that I wrote, that I produced, recorded, not necessarily produced like in technical wise, but like the actual, just like the arrangement of it and the sounds, the instrumentation. I wanted to be a part of that, and I wanted to make something that would have that impact on others and for so many people in the world, not just like my friends or family or people in my hometown, but for like just everyone.
And of course, I mean, first of all, let's just pay attention to the fact that you're 10 years old having all those dreams is pretty rare. A lot of people are in their 20s and 30s and still don't know what they want to do with their life. But it's great that you had this vision right from the get-go. And then, there you are at 14, you're releasing your first single, your first EP at 16,
Yes.
but yet it wasn't what you wanted, was it?
No, it was not. I love that EP. I still listen to it sometimes, and I still hold it really close to my heart because it was the first 5 songs that I wrote by myself that I felt comfortable putting out in the world. And they didn't end up going out in the world in the way that I wish they did now, but they were the first 5 songs that I had written and was not like, oh my God, this is terrible. I never want to let anybody hear this. It was the first song. I mean, it was called Possibilities, and the title track, Possibilities, was literally the first song that I played it. And I had played it for my family and for my friends and was like, I want to put this out. And I had put out a couple singles before that, and both of them there were 2 of them, and both of them were written with producers or with other songwriters. And this was the first one where I was just sitting on my bedroom floor with a guitar, sitting at my piano over here, and just wrote something. And it was the first time that I was like, this needs to be heard. And I ended up taking it down earlier this year because, which was a thing that I had wanted to do for probably a year and a half before that. But it was just because in the end the production didn't really resonate with me. The lyrics did and the songs did, but the sound of it didn't, and it didn't represent me or my personality or my full potential or anything that I just like wanted to represent. And so I just felt like I had to take it down, but I still love that EP, and I still the songs on it.
It's true. You struggled a little to find your voice or your true
Mhm.
inner voice and to match the songs you wrote to be yourself. Is that something that came together like after that song, the next one that you did that come together all at once, or was it piece by piece that you kind of like found your voice and said like, no, this is really who I am?
I think that the songs were already who I was. The songs were all my personal experiences. Lyrically, they
Was it
were
just
what
getting
I
the
wanted to
vision
say.
out there?
It was just getting the vision out there that I struggled with. And I think I struggled with it honestly until the end of 2020. And I was just working a lot on music in fall of last year, about a year ago, on new stuff, not necessarily for me, but for other people also, and was just making a lot of music. And I kind of started writing things that I really, really liked. And I was working with the right kind of people and the right people for my sound and for me as a person. And I was just re-inspired to, go in and take some of my older songs. Like all of these songs that I'm putting out right now were written back at the same time, almost as that EP, that first EP. But I'm kind of redoing it in a way of like, I'm still just taking all of these experiences that I went through a couple years ago and things that have like shaped me to who I am now. And I'm producing them in a way that I love and actually
That's
want
true to
people to hear
yourself.
it that way, to truly to how I pictured them and saw them looking and sounding and the whole vision for it. And I'm putting that out now. And it's just because I think that I started working with the right people, I kind of found myself, but not really. Like I already had found my voice, but kind of just the sound.
You're able to
There
project
was a little
who
bit
you
of a
are.
disconnect. there was a bit of a disconnect for me in terms of the song itself, like the composition, the lyrics, the melodies versus the how it sounded, the sonic elements and the instrumentation and the production.
Enter Chris Gray, right?
Yes, I saw the interview with him. Of course.
He's a fascinating guy. I really enjoyed my talk with him, and I could
Mhm.
see the way he worked his own, finding his own voice and kind of stuck to that. I can see why he can help you make the songs that you had in your head come out both musically and visually.
Yeah. He was the first person. Well, we started originally working together on songs not necessarily for me. We started working together kind of writing for him for his last two singles and his upcoming music and for some other artists that we were just pitching demos to. And after about 4 months or so of working with him, I just had an instinct that I wanted to make my own EP. I had a desire to make my own EP, and I had an instinct that he was gonna be able to hear what I when I explained it to him, that he would be able to hear exactly what I wanted and make it sound that way, and that was exactly what happened. He just understood my visions in a way that no one had and never questioned me. I mean, if he did question me, he didn't say anything and then he ended up trusting me in the end. But
No, it's a
I
rare to
feel
have a collaboration that close.
yeah, it's no, we trust each other a lot as people and musically, and it's just worked out really, really well.
So the first song that you released for this new EP was called "Numb."
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about being numb. What are the dangers of trying to be numb and ignoring negative issues in your life, according to you?
I think as a songwriter, being numb to your life experiences and your emotions and your moods and thoughts and everything is just the worst possible thing you can do as a songwriter. I feel like I need them to be able to write. I cannot write a song without feeling those emotions. And so if there's terrible things going on in my life, I mean, the best thing that can come out of it is that I'm able to write some really amazing songs and like help other people and inspire other people or connect with those people that are also going through those same things or similar things. And so, you know, as much as I would love everything in my life to be absolutely perfect and happy and great, you also can't have the good without the bad. And the bad is what helps me write and make music, which is one of the things that makes me happy. So, it's interesting.
Well, you and I both believe in something. Uh, we both believe that things happen. They don't happen to us, but they happen for us.
Yeah.
Um, what is one example in your life where the universe threw you like this nasty curveball, but yet you somehow hit it out of the park anyway?
I feel like it has to be the pandemic. I feel like that is one thing where for me, I mean, I didn't have the worst possible experience and everybody else, like, I feel terrible for anybody that did have a really bad experience during it or had some personal losses or whatever they were going through at the time. But for me, the worst thing that happened was, you know, school. I left school and came home, and that was just terrible on my mental health. And it was, terrible for musically. I was not able to work with any people, I was not able to see anyone or work on anything, and I was kind of just cooped up in my own little bubble writing myself. And I was also at a point where I didn't know if I wanted to be an artist still, because I was still struggling to find that sound that I wanted. And I was like, I have the lyric thing down. I can write for other people. And that's kind of the direction I was going. And it was one of those things where the universe was like, we're going to make you feel even more like you don't want to be an artist. And we're going to make you feel like you literally don't want to do music and that you're struggling, like your mental health is just going to decline. But then you're going to end up with some really good songs out of it. And I ended up, well, I took that. I kind of went into that and was like, I'm going to write, I'm going to record. I started working with Chris. We started making music for me, for him, for everyone. And that made me happy. And now look what it's doing. I'm able to put it out and I'm able to get the response that I want and be able to connect with some people and, can I find a new audience and new people to listen. And it's just ended up being not like a not necessarily that it's a good thing,
No,
the
but I
pandemic,
understand.
but it's ended up being something that threw, not that the pandemic threw curveballs at me, but it caused other things. You
And,
know,
and I
it
think
caused some things to happen that ended up helping me
it put you
in.
on a path that, but it wasn't an easy path. It was actually harder. But because you took the harder path, the narrow road, let's say, it
Yeah.
was more fraught with danger. But
Well,
by making it, you can celebrate much more because you can see I did it.
yeah, well, it would have been totally. I feel like the whole pandemic was just a curveball for everybody. But, you know, there were some things that came out of it that were good in all the bad. And for me, that was being able to like discover my sound and discover what I wanted to put out in the world. And that honestly wouldn't have happened without the pandemic. So I do have to credit it to that. But I also hate that we had to go through this and that people suffered through it. So,
For sure. Um,
yeah.
before we leave the topic, what do you miss most about Boston?
This is such a random thing that I miss. The first thing that came into my mind was coffee shops in Boston, which is so terrible because the second thing that came into my mind was my friends. And I
Okay.
feel like that's so much better of an answer. I do. I miss my friends. I'm actually going there in 2 weeks to work with some people there, see my friends. Now that, Toronto is open back up and Boston's open back up and everyone's vaccinated, or at least everyone, enough people are vaccinated.
Yeah.
It just, yeah, it feels like a good time to go back out and work with my friends again on music. Because I've just been here working with the same couple people and Chris, and I'm excited for that. But I miss the coffee shops too.
So,
Not the
so,
coffee and the coffee shops.
just let you know, all of Allegra's friends, remember to take her out for some coffee when she's visiting.
Please,
She'll love you for it.
please do.
Now, Talk of the Town is another release that was just done not too long ago. And it's interesting. I love the topic because so many people today want to be influencers, but they don't have anything valuable to share. Dancing in front of a phone is kind of kind of no, there's not much value in there, right? Um, so apart, you um, I just think it's exhausting and you kind of feel empty at the end of it. But how different is it trying to get someone's attention from a one-to-one dynamic instead of, we talk about influencers, but you're in the song, you're talking more about trying to get one person's attention. How much more difficult is that?
Um, shouldn't be difficult. In this instance, it was.
Mhm.
um, the song is about that, the kind of person that's so focused on their dreams and their goals, which is not a bad thing because I'm like that. And, I might end up, there are people that I've also neglected and, not paid any attention to because I was so focused on that. But it's one thing to, turn people away because of that. And then another thing to, lead people on and like be like, give you my attention and then just take it away out of nowhere. And that's sort of where I was going with this. And, for me, I'm also an artist. So I have kind of both sides of it, but in this instance, it's like me in a relationship or some, sort of thing going on with another artist who is so focused on that they can't, that I feel underappreciated. And
Or invisible.
all I'm trying to do is support them and give them attention that they want, but they want it from, other people. They want it from a crowd. They want it from whoever else is gonna give them the attention for their music or for them as a person. And I'm just not enough for that. And so that song was sort of about that
It's
feeling.
interesting because I believe the pandemic is kind of weeding out a lot of artists who are doing it for the wrong reasons. Those that are doing it for the ego because they want that adoration, but they're not really doing it for themselves. They're trying to find a way to fill the void. I think we're weeding them out. I'm not sure. I'm well, time will tell.
There are always artists who are not going to be doing it for the right reasons. And it's, everyone has their own reasons. It's just interesting. But there are always going to be artists, I think, out there that don't necessarily have the intention of a true artist or songwriter.
of giving. It's more about the take.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think you're a giver. I can definitely see that in the way you write. So I think that's a positive. And I know that visuals are something that are very important. I think it's not only the music that you do, but the way that you portray it in the music video is important to you, which is why you work with Chris. Apart from like an $8 investment in a Shure 55 SH microphone, which was a good investment. It looks really cool. What else contributed to the vibe of that video?
The Talk of the Town video.
Yeah.
Um, I think that the lighting was very important for us in that. We had a really good theater, and there was a lighting technician there who was great in, doing what Chris and I were coming up with. And so that definitely played a huge role in the visuals. And there was a haze machine, so that spotlight effect is like the coolest thing ever. And I had no idea that that was gonna look like that until I saw it on camera, and I was just blown away. And Chris did an amazing job with directing it and filming it. And we had another friend, Michaelin, who we is an artist we both work with also, and she was in the video. And so I
Right
think
behind
that,
you, right?
yeah, so I think that having the two of them in it, really, that was a vision that I wanted so badly, was to just have them, at the end when they're like coming out and getting me. I always saw that kind of a thing happening. And so they were, perfect for that and did exactly what I had thought about and pictured. And yeah, Chris was amazing with the camera, and the lighting was great. So,
At the end,
and the
are they
microphone.
helping or hindering you?
Um, I don't know. They're just they're just coming out to grab me. I have no idea.
Well,
It's sort of just like a thing of being consumed by, the reason why it's called Talk of the Town is because this person is, trying to be successful and trying to get attention, and, they want to be the talk of the town. And they kind of are doing that. And there's so many people talking about them. And, the whole thing, the reason why I wanted the song to feel a little claustrophobic is because it's that feeling of like everybody's talking about them, and you're just like, I can't even get away from them. Even if I wanted to, I can't get away. And you're just hearing about them all the time. And people are talking about how much they love them or their music and their, all of that. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, go away. Because I'm trying to get out of this and be in a place where I can move on. And it's really hard when that's, in my ears and around me all the time. And so I think that that's kind of the idea, that I wanted them to be those people, because they're saying talk, talk, talk in behind me. And so they're the people that are talking. And I'm, sitting there and they're trying to come grab me, and I'm getting consumed by it. And so that was kind of the idea of that.
Yet you are a person that likes to connect with people, especially those who share the same feelings as you do. Is there a connection in particular recently that touched you? Maybe a DM you received or a comment from a video or a fan?
Yeah. I've had some people DMing me lately. I don't even know if there's like any specific ones, but there have been so many nice DMs that I've gotten lately that were just like, I added your song to my playlist. I love it. Um, like, just keep doing what you're doing and those kinds of things. So I've had a lot of those lately that were so sweet, that just like, they're just like, I just discovered your music. I love it. Just like, let me know when you put something else out. And those have been so nice. Also, I had JP Sachs, the singer, comment on one of my TikToks recently, and he was like so good. And of course, I look up to him so much as a songwriter, and so that just also made me very honored. Feel very honored.
And of course, I mean, we talked about ego a little bit earlier, and ego is the enemy. It destroys you. But we do need feedback. Positive feedback is so good for us. Uh, I'm a writer. I do interviews. I write. I want to know if you enjoyed the interview. I'm going to ask you later after we finish off. But because that feedback is important, I'm sure with you when you have music, you put some out into the world. It's very brave. It's scary.
Yeah.
But you want to see like how do people feel? Like am I just shouting in the void, or are people actually receiving my songs?
Yeah, the void is a terrible thing. I feel like social media and the internet has really become that lately. There's just so many people, posting TikToks of their music and Instagrams of their music, and it can feel like you're shouting into a void. And, I want my music to speak for itself, but the problem is that it's like 10% the music and 90% promotion and talking about that music. And I'm okay with talking about that music, but I also just want people to listen to it and then talk to me about it. I'm like, why do I have to just talk to you and you have to see my face come up 10 times on your TikTok talking about my song before you go listen to it? So
Yes.
it's just, yeah, it does feel like a void sometimes. And releasing music is very anxious. It's a very anxious feeling, but it's also very rewarding at the end.
Cathartic, especially if you're dealing.
Yeah. That's the word I was looking for. But when it comes out and it's out there and you have no like the week leading up to a song is the worst because I will sit there. I will be so highly anxious. I'll be so on edge. I'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I want to pull this down right now. I'm not announcing this song. Oh my god, people are waiting for the song and they're not going to like it when it comes out." And everybody has those doubts and those questions and it's the worst coming leading up to the release. And then once it's out, it's like I feel like you have no more control of it. It's just in the universe and anyone can go listen to it. And at that point I'm like, okay, I need to let go of this. And I wish I could let go a little bit earlier.
Well,
But
you've got some new stuff coming up. You got the single of "Leading You On" coming up, which we will
which
be
is
hearing
really
on this Friday. Um, One thing I like to do, I like
mhm.
to go to your Instagram and find out what is the first post that Allegra did. So, do you remember your first post? Because I'm going to tell you about it.
Probably a cover.
It was a cover of Wicked Games by Chris Isaac.
Yeah.
It was actually a beautiful cover.
Oh, thank you.
Uh, any reason why you picked that particular song? This is your entry into the world of social media, Instagram, anyway.
Well, actually, I had another Instagram account too that was a personal one, and then that one, I stopped using it because I was using this one as my personal one after a while because people want to see your personal life in addition to your music, which I don't blame them. So yeah, I transferred everything over to here, but that was my first cover I think that I had put out on this account. And yeah, I love that song. I do. I really, really love it. I love the chords of it. There's so many great covers out there of that song. Um, it's so pretty. I think
So,
I covered it every year for like 3 years straight in the
oh, really?
same. Yeah, if you actually look through, I think it was because that was like March, and then I think March every year for like 3 years I posted it, and then I broke it this year or something. I don't know.
Well, the
Too
EP,
busy
take,
promoting my own EP.
yeah, take it from me. I know, leading you on. Obviously, the first track. Well, not the first track, but the next track off this. We look forward to hearing more from you. Thank you so much for stopping by and having a chat. We got to know a bit more about your creative process, about where you came from and growing up, and the music that kind of made you who you are today. And we look forward to seeing more of you and gaining that success that you so deserve.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really good talking to you.
Right? Your music does delve a bit in the negative stuff, but you kind of put it in a kind of a poppy light, just like Chris does.
I was just about to, say that I feel like a lot of my music is like happy music for sad people. Especially stuff that's coming out. Not even necessarily this EP, because this EP kind of, as much as there's like kind of sadder topics, it does end up kind of the whole EP as a whole is meant to represent something positive, which is just, growth and discovering yourself and moving on past experiences that are just not good for you. And it's just, yeah, so it is about like a generally good thing, but I feel like a lot of my songs, especially the ones that I'm working on now, do go into, mental health and, like bad things that are going on in the world. But I feel like I also just love putting them into like a very upbeat way, in a way that just like makes people not like, if you want to listen to it and be in a sad mood, you can, and it will make you sad. And if you're also in a good mood and just want to like jam out in your car, you can do that too. So
One of my favorite sayings is you can't read the label when you're inside the jar. So sometimes, we're kind of wrapped up in our own little world, and we don't see the obvious. And sometimes when you step away from your life, especially step away from a problem, and you see it from an outsider's perspective, and then we talked about earlier, things happen for us. Then you understand more where that fits in your life, and it doesn't seem so overwhelming when you understand it a bit more. And I think that's what music does. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does. I've never heard that saying, but that's interesting.
well, if you, it's why it's good to open up with others, because sometimes we think we're alone. We
Mhm.
have a very maybe. I mean, this comes a lot with the people who've been abused. I've interviewed people who do cuttings, those that are survivors of sexual abuse and all that. And once they start talking about it, they kind of remove themselves, and then they see the label and they kind of see how it shaped who they are. And then they can kind of, like we talked about earlier too, see the good in it. It's a terrible, evil thing oftentimes that these things happen to us, but you can say, okay, well, now that this happened to me, well, I can have more empathy. Maybe it's maybe a more empathetic person because I can feel people's pain. I can relate to them more. I think there's always a beauty that you can take even from sadness or pain. There's
Yeah.
something good that you can extract.
Yeah, for me, I mean, writing songs is very introspective, and I like it because I am a very self-aware person, and I don't like when I'm not self-aware. I don't like when I don't understand what I'm going through, or what I if I don't understand my emotions or my thoughts, and I'm like I will sit there and question it and analyze it until I do. And music really helps with that. Writing it into a song just kind of helps me understand what emotions I was going through, and what the experience is and what lessons are coming out of it. And yeah, it's just no matter what the song is, it does that. And then I like that because it hopefully will help other people also go through that same, analysis of themselves, and they're like they don't know what they're going through, and then they hear the song and they're like that's what I'm going through. And that's happened to me even with people that I've worked with, like Chris, when his latest single I Should Be Happy, when he came to me with that song, I had actually tried to write a song about that, and like a year before, and it was not working out for me, and I was
The
just
one about
writing
being at a party and just trying to.
but no, I Should Be Happy by
Okay,
Chris.
but in the song that you were writing, what was that
Oh
like?
no, 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 no. It's not one that's out.
Okay.
It was just like a very it was just like a little thing in my notes. And it was something that I was just like sitting in my house and just like wrote, or sitting on my driveway or something, and like wrote something down on my phone, and then I tried to like work on it, and it just wasn't coming out the way I wanted it to come out. And I was like, I don't want to put this out ever. And I just never did. And then he came to me with the idea for that. And I was like, that's what I wanted to write. And he's like, what? And I'm like, I tried to write this song. And it was literally, I said, I want to write a song that's like, I literally said to him, I was like, I want to write a song because I was feeling I should be happy and I'm not. And I want to write a song. And then I was trying to write it in like the most poetic way. And he just goes, what if it's just, I should be happy right now, but that's not how I feel. And I'm like, yeah, of course, just say it the way it is.
Yeah.
And so he says it the way it is. And I'm like, I love that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I tried to write this song as like a super poetic song, and like nobody would understand the meaning of it. But when you just listen to that, you're like, oh, that's how I feel. I feel that too. And
Well, it's
that
raw and
happened to
honest.
me with that song.
It's
So
honest. It's raw and honest.
it is. It's yeah, because I literally co-wrote that song, and I listened to it, and I'm like, that's I had tried to write a song about that, and I went into my notes and I was like, okay, well, what did I say that was like kind of poetic now? And then let's go into that for like verses or wherever else. But like, it's perfect because his hook is just honest and straight out. And I'm trying to do a little bit more of that also, because I feel like I get so wrapped up in like how to make it the most poetic way, and how to say it in a way that's just like, I don't know, a very fancy, poetic way that people would be like, "Oh, she's a great writer. She's like Shakespeare." And like, I'm not at all. I make music. I don't write.
Well,
I'm not inventing words. So
that's interesting because I'm a public speaker. I do keynotes, and
yeah.
I speak at events for business. Um, and I was listening to some advice, and they said that actually the ones that are really successful use the simplest concepts, the simplest basic words. Even they said if you find a word that you're using, find a synonym that's even simpler, and the more you can dilute it, it makes it actually more powerful because people will understand what you're trying to say. You don't lose them in the language, which might be a trap. Interesting.
Exactly, which is something that I've sometimes struggled with. And some of my songs I love having that, and then other ones I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I want it to be totally just say it how it is. And yeah, it's really interesting because I feel like Chris and I like work well together because I help him with the poetry and the creative stuff and like the very like interesting writery stuff. And then he ends up coming up with like the lines that I'm like, that's exactly like people will relate to that. I'm like, I'll craft a story around that, but like what you're giving me right now is literally what people need to hear and how people are going to relate to it and the exact way that they're going to connect with it.
You add the flowers, and he adds the dirt, and then you can make things grow.
Exactly. Plant a tree.